Good morning once more, or good afternoon, depending on time of the day. So this is the second part of chapter 2 of our class. Here we shall be going on with indefinite articles. If you're watching this video and that you are not part of my group class, so this chapter concerns beginners in French, and I'm using a book called French for Beginners for the Utterly Confused. I've explained the first part of this chapter. So what I mean is there are videos that you have to watch before you continue from here. But if you actually are part of my class, you should understand probably where this comes from. This is the second part of our class of chapter 2, where I will be talking about the indefinite articles. Let me begin by sharing my screen with you. Okay, so here we go. Just give me a second. Page, yeah. Here we have the indefinite articles. So it says in chapter 1, we studied the definite articles, which we already did, le, la, le in French. There are three indefinite articles, un, une, and de. Indefinite articles are used to introduce new countable concrete nouns into the discourse. Masculine singular nouns require un, while feminine nouns require une, as with definite articles. There is only one indefinite article for the plural nouns, either masculine or feminine, de. So this is a summary table. We have the definite articles which we saw earlier, le, la, le, which all corresponds to de. And here we also have the indefinite articles, which we use when we don't know the particular context in which we are talking about. Un, une, and de. Un and une are respectively a and an, both of them obviously in English. But there in English would mean some. An example here is un jour, un étudiant. Une plage, une étudiante. Des jours, des étudiants, des étudiantes. Good. So here we continue. Okay, good. With the feminine of nouns or adjectives ending with E. I'm sorry, this browser, uh, uh, sorry for this. I had to change the PDF reader because the other PDF reader was a little bit troublesome. But this one is fine. So let's continue our class. So this is the indefinite articles we talked about. So now we have the feminine of nouns or adjectives ending in A. You have studied that in some cases there is an A at the end of the word. For example, engagé, we're talking about this in brackets. Employé, occupé. This means that these words form their feminine by adding an extra A. However, the pronunciation of the masculine and feminine is the same in this particular case. Don't get it wrong. When the word is a noun, the article and the noun must agree. Like here we have an example. Un employé, une employée. Un employé, une employée. Yeah, un employé, une employée. Masculine and feminine. If it is an adjective or a participle functioning as an adjective, the agreement must be made with the noun it's modifying. What we're trying to say here is simple, is the fact that adjectives are always written with respect to the noun they are describing. So you always have to make sure that if the adjective is masculine, it means the noun is masculine. So the noun will determine the nature of the adjective you will be using. And now let's use this opportunity to go through the days of the week. It's quite very simple, but it's something you have to focus on the pronunciation and make sure you memorize it. If you are very new to French, you should really focus on the pronunciation. This is pronounced from Monday to Sunday as lundi, that's Monday, mardi, that's Tuesday, mercredi, that's Wednesday, jeudi, that's Thursday, vendredi, that's Friday, samedi, that is Saturday, and dimanche, that is Sunday. So we have lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, samedi, dimanche. So in French, the days of the week are not capitalized. Like in English, when you write a sentence, you often capitalize the days of the week. That's not the case in French, unless they are written at the beginning of a sentence. When you add the article le before a day of the week, it means a repetitive action on every day. Literally speaking, what I mean is, normally you don't add articles to the days of the week in French. Sometimes some students attempted to say un lundi or dans lundi or sur lundi. There's nothing like that in French. Normally, if you want to say on Monday, you simply say lundi. But if you use the article le, like le lundi, it will mean on Mondays, it will mean every Monday or each Monday. So indicating the repetitive action on that particular day of the week. Like here, elle va au cinéma dimanche, she goes to the cinema on Sunday. Elle va au cinéma le dimanche, she goes to the cinema on every Sunday, every Sunday. So that's the difference we're talking about here. Now let's talk about the months. From January to December, this is how they sound like. Janvier, février, mars, avril, mai, juin, juillet, août, septembre, octobre, novembre, décembre. So, the pronunciation is very important, but please don't forget. Uh, Probably you're watching this video because you're trying to study French for the exam of passing the exam. Most of my students actually are preparing the TCF or the TEF or the DELF. So you don't just need to get the right pronunciation, you also need to be able to spell the word correctly. So my advice is while you're practicing, try to write down these days, this information into your notebook probably, and make sure you know the way they are spelled. Don't just focus on watching the video, but try to make some note out of it and make sure that you are actually able to spell the words on your own. So I repeat here, janvier, January, février, February, mars, avril, mars, that's March, avril, April, May, May, juin, June, juillet, July, août, August, September, Septembre, October, October, November, November, and December, December. So, like the days of the week, months are not capitalized. Keep this in mind always, unless they are written in the beginning of the sentence. Never use an article before a month. That's the very thing we said earlier. But with the days of the week, you could use le, like le lundi or le jeudi. With with the months of the year, no. You want to say in January is en janvier. We shall see that later better. So here we have some time sequences. Hier, aujourd'hui, and demain. Hier, aujourd'hui, and demain. Yeah, that's actually what we do have here, which means yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Remember, for this word, you don't pronounce the H, it's hier. Now here we have the numbers. If you're studying this independent of where you're watching this video from, depending, sorry, on where you're watching this video from, you should take some consequences. If you are everywhere in the world except in Switzerland and Belgium, you should probably be very careful with this particular part of the numbers. For Belgium and Switzerland French are actually different from the rest of the French of the world, especially when it comes to numbers like 70, 80, and 90. So the way I'm going to show for this pronunciation is only for people who are not in Switzerland and in Belgium. But if you are watching this video from Switzerland and Belgium, and or you want to learn the French from Belgium or the one spoken in Switzerland as well, and you want to know how the numbers are pronounced, make sure to write a comment so that I can make a video for that as well. And in the comment section, I will give you obviously a link to a website that contains audio practice for the numbers so that you can perfect your numbers as well. So I will be reading it once from 70 downward. So here we have 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100 is 100. 101, 102, 100, 101, 102, 200 is 200, 201, 300, 1000, 2000, 10,000, not 10,000. 10 is obviously this, but when you have this, you pronounce it 10,000. 100,000, 1,000,000. So remember that 60 initially means 60. So 70 is kind of 60 plus 10. And then you have plus 11, 71, 72, 73. So it's like you're summing up from 6010 till 6019. That is 79. 80, if you look it closely, is 84 is 4. 20 is 20. Kind of 4 times 20. Maybe with this, you could be able to remember it easily. 80. And then 81, 82. When you reach 89, you have 89. And 90 is 90. Kind of 80 plus 10, or 4 by 20 plus 10, 90, and 91, 92, 93. And you move on. And here you have 1,000,000. Now, given the date, how do we say the date in French? Now that we have all the elements of giving the date, this is the formula. You say le for the day, the month, and the year. For example, le 20, le 20 mai, like today. Le 20 mai 2025. If you want to include the day of the week, is mardi, le 20 mai 2025. That's how it works. If you want to give it in complete sentence, nous sommes le, today is. Nous sommes le mardi 20 mai 2025. Nous sommes le 23 mars 2023. Nous sommes le 23 mars 2003. Now, let's talk about introducing people. Let's read how Mr. Journal introduces Muriel to Mr. Laurier. So here we have Michel Journal, who is introducing Muriel to Mr. Laurier. Muriel Laurier and Claude Laurier. Mademoiselle Mélero, je vous présente, I present you, je vous présente Claude Laurier. Monsieur Laurier est le directeur des ventes. As you can see here, Monsieur Laurier est le directeur des ventes. He is the sales manager or director. Enchanté, monsieur, nice to meet you. Enchanté et bienvenue à notre entreprise. Merci. So these are two ways to introduce. Formal context, like X could be Jean, je vous présente Y. Yeah, X, I present you, please. Mademoiselle Mélero, je vous présente Monsieur Claude Laurier. Informal context, je te présente instead of je vous présente. So, maybe, Abhinav, je vous présente Jean, and so on. And enchanté, which means nice to meet you. Remember that E distinguishes the feminine only in written, but usually does not affect the pronunciation. For most cases, for words that already have an E at the end. The verb présenter is a regular AR ending verb. If you want to introduce yourself, say je me présente or je m'appelle. Je m'appelle. We saw it in the previous chapter with the verb s'appeler. Saying goodbye, you could say au revoir, which will mean goodbye. À demain, which will mean see you tomorrow. À tout à l'heure, which means see you soon. À mercredi, which means see you on Wednesday. And here we have a couple of verbs. Vouloir, in English to want. How is it conjugated? Je veux means I want. Tu veux means you want. Il veut means he or she wants. Nous voulons, we want, vous voulez, you want, ils veulent, they want. If you don't understand je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle, you should probably refer to the chapter 1 of this book. Or so probably look into the video, explain the chapter 1 of this book, where we understand the personal pronouns je, tu, il, elle, and nous. This is just the conjugation. So if I want to say, I want some sweet, je veux des bonbons. We want a cake. Nous voulons un gâteau. So make sure to remember each way they are pronounced and the way they are written also. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent. And aller, the verb to go. Aller, though ER is irregular. Aller is the only irregular ER verb as far as French is concerned. Conjugation in the present tense will be je vais, tu vas, il va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. Je vais is I go. Tu vas, you go. Il va, he goes. Nous allons, we go. Vous allez, you go. Ils vont, they go. Elles vont, they go. Verb whose stems end in C. Verb whose stems end in C, pronounced like S. Change their spelling. Now, this is a general rule. Whenever you have a C, the letter C in French, followed by A, O, or U, and you want it to sound like an S sound, like here in the verb commencer, this C sounds like an S, despite the fact that it is not an S. It's because of the vowel A that is just here. But if you want this very C to sound like an S when it is in front of an A, O, or U, you have to add what we call in French this accent. We call it in French la cédille. La cédille. La cédille. If you want to understand more about accent, try to watch the video on my first class for beginners, where I explain the pronunciation and a couple of accents to help them pronounce better. La cédille. La cédille. Je commence. Tu commences. Il commence. Elle commence. Nous commençons. To have this same S sound, we have this cédille. Yeah. Vous commencez. Il commence. This rule is independent of the tense. Please, wherever you have an O, A, or U following a C, and you want the C to sound like an S, you have to add this CD. Commencer, which means to begin or to start. So that works. And here is another verb, remplacer. Je remplace, which means to replace. Tu remplaces, il remplace, nous remplaçons, vous remplacez, il remplace, elle remplace. Yeah. And here we have the preposition a and she. Many French prepositions have an English counterpart that is usually used in the same way. However, there are many cases where there is no direct relationship between the prepositions used in English language. Let us observe some of the possible translation for a and she. Remember again, keep in mind that French and English are somewhat different. Yeah. Now, some of my students always have this problem where they often do translate from English to French, but technically it's problematic. For one reason, keep in mind French and English are two different languages. Are we good? So it means that the rules are probably very different. So the easiest way you could probably deal with both of them is trying to understand each culture in its own context. Because whenever you have to translate word by word, in most of the context, you're going to have a lot of things wrong. So keep this in mind while you're studying. We have A. We say in chapter 1 that A is used to talking about city you live. Like, j'habite à Paris, j'habite à Montréal, j'habite à Vancouver. The preposition a is usually translated as at or to when you're referring to time or place. Now it has a different meaning. The referring meaning is used here as at or to. Although there are other counterparts in English. When followed by an article, le and le, adopt a contracted form. For example, a, if it's followed by le, it becomes o, which means to the or at the. Ale would also means at the. This O and this O are pronounced the same, though this is plural, this is singular. And A plus L apostrophe remains A L apostrophe. A plus La will remain Allah. So here, Muriel va. Remember, va is what? The conjugation of the verb aller, meaning she goes. Muriel va à l'entreprise. She goes to the company. Elle va à la piscine. She goes to the pool. Elle va au cinéma. She goes to the cinema. Elle va aux plages de la Méditerranée. She goes to the beaches of the Mediterranean Sea. So preposition a in all its forms. Try to memorize this as well. Also, when a is followed by a weekday in a farewell, it means see you on that day. We saw earlier, à mardi, à demain. À mardi, à demain. À mardi, see you on Tuesday. À demain, see you tomorrow. And then here we have the preposition chez. This preposition does not really have any direct equivalence in English. That's what I said earlier. It means at the workplace of when used before a profession. At the workplace of or a specific workplace. In this case, especially after the verb aller, chez is used instead of à. Muriel va chez le dentiste to the dentist workplace. You could say chez le dentiste to the dentist workplace. You could say chez le boucher to the butcher's workplace. You could say chez le coiffeur to the hairdresser's workplace. So chez means to this workplace. But chez could also be used to indicate a person's house or home. Chez moi, for example, would mean my house, chez moi, or chez Muriel, which means in Muriel's house or to Muriel's house, depending on what the context be. So this video has been there for about 25 minutes, maybe 30. So we are going to continue the later part of this video. That's going to be part 3 of chapter 2 with the regular plural nouns, and hopefully we will be able to finish that in that third part. I don't want the video to be too long. So if you're very new and you wonder how to learn French, message me. I'll have a lot of video on what to do, what not to do, when to do it as well. So make sure you